Hey guys, Tom here from SerumPresets.com, and in this tutorial we're going to be making this new disco pad sound. So really nice pad sound. Like I said, it does kind of have this like new disco feel to it, but it is quite a basic sound, and you could kind of interpret this in a lot of different ways and make it work in a lot of different styles of music. But nevertheless, it is quite a useful sound to kind of learn how to make. There's a lot of directions that you can take it, once you've got this basic sound down, with different waveforms, more advanced wavetables and different filters and so forth. But yeah, we're going to be making the sound completely from scratch in just a second. I'll just quickly mention that this is one of the pad sounds from my Serum EDM preset pack, which I recently brought out. If you're interested in that, there's 128 EDM style presets just like this one, that are all really kind of versatile. They're all handcrafted by me, and if you want to check that out, there's a link in the description below which will take you to the page with audio demo and further details about what you can expect to find in the preset pack as well. So thanks in advance if you decide to purchase that. I really do appreciate it. But without further ado, let's begin making the sound completely from scratch. So we're just going to initialize the preset. So this really isn't a complicated sound at all, which to some people might be quite surprising because it is a really nice sound. So the first thing we're going to do is start off in oscillator A here. We're going to switch oscillator B on as well, and both these oscillators are just very simply going to use saw waves. The next thing we're going to do is pitch oscillator B an octave above oscillator A. This is just going to help fill out the frequency range a little bit and make it sound much bigger. So just like at this point, all we've got is this, which is just really simple. One great way we can make a huge difference to the sound straight away is to increase the unison amount for each of these oscillators. So essentially now for each oscillator we're going to hear 6 different versions of the sound that are all slightly detuned from one another, or 6 voices as they would be correctly called. And you can hear straight away here much bigger difference, and it sounds much nicer already. The next thing we're going to do is dive into envelope 1 here, which by default in Serum is the amplitude envelope. We're going to bring the sustain down just a little bit, and we're going to curve the decay so it's a bit sharper here. And then the next thing we're going to do is just add a little bit of release as well. This is because, as you'll have heard in the demonstration of the sound, when you have a pad sound, what essentially you need to make sure is that you do have a decent amount of sustain, so that when you are holding the notes down, the sound doesn't eventually die off. You want it to be always there. But at the same time, it's really nice sometimes with pad sounds to have like a little bit of decay at the start, just so it has a bit more impact when you actually press the keys down or input the MIDI notes. And we're going to use this same amplitude envelope also to modulate their filter cutoff in just a second. But the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to introduce the noise oscillator into the sound as well. And what we're going to do is use this J106 high pass noise. It's one of my favorites because it's like, it doesn't have much low end, so it doesn't interfere too much with the sound, but it does add, just a bit of polish to the high end. And we're just going to bring the level of this down a little bit. We don't want it to completely overwhelm the sound. So far we've got this. So you can hear that the sustain from the amplitude envelope here, but it still has that impact when the sound actually comes into play. The next thing we're going to do is dive into the filter section within Serum, and for the sound we're just going to use the basic MG low pass 12 dB filter. Just in case you don't know what the different numbers mean for the filter types, essentially this number after the type of filter that it says it is the amount of dB, so attenuation per octave. The reason that this is important is because if you use, say, a 24 dB filter instead of a 12 dB filter, the filter itself is going to be attenuating a greater range of frequencies. So although this works for some sounds, like I quite like using quite extreme filters on bass sounds. For a pad sound, when we are going to be using the envelope to modulate the cutoff, we want quite a flowing, like a natural like flowing movement. We don't want a really extreme filtering process to take place. So that's just something to bear in mind. The number after the filter just essentially means how kind of extreme the filter actually is. So we're going to make sure that both oscillator A and B and also the noise oscillator are going to be routed through the filter. And then, as I mentioned earlier, what we're going to do is use envelope 1 here to modulate the cutoff of the filter. So this is going to, like I mentioned at the start of the video, emphasize that pluck-like nature of the sound, of the pad sound, right at the start, which I'll just quickly demonstrate here. So you can really hear the pluck-like nature of the sound now. Now, if you kind of don't want it to be so plucky, there's a few things you could do. You can increase the cutoff of the filter so that the cutoff isn't actually being moved as much as it was before. You could also just bring the sustain up so you're hearing more of the sustain sound compared to the decay of the sound at the start. It's really completely up to you, and you might want to think about adjusting this based on how it's working within your mix. The next thing we're going to do is head into the effects section. There's a lot you can do here. The first thing we're going to do is just add some multiband compression. So if you just click this multiband button here and increase the gain, just make sure because this is going to increase the gain of the overall sound, that when you increase the gain on the multiband compressor, you also bring the master down a little bit. Essentially, this is just going to emphasize some of the high end of the sound, as you'll hear here. So it really just helps add a little bit of polish. I really like the multiband compressor within Serum. It's really great for bringing the characteristics of the sound out a little bit. And the next thing we're going to do is just add a reverb. I personally would probably use an external reverb on if I was using this sound in a track, just because I'm not the biggest fan of the reverb within Serum, but for the purpose of this tutorial, we can still use it. The main thing that you want to make sure to do if you do use this reverb is to increase this low cut parameter so that we're not getting muddy low frequencies getting routed through the reverb, because this can be a bit of a nightmare when it comes to mixing later on. And yeah, we can just listen to this now. There's a few other things that you might want to do. I mean, this is the basic sound now, but you might want to implement an EQ just to EQ out some of the low end of the pad. Typically, pad sounds are layered underneath, other elements in a mix. So like maybe a bass, or you've got drums playing, or a lead or a vocal. And you don't really want the kind of muddy low end of a pad to be interfering with the rest of the mix. So something that I typically like to do on pad sounds is just roll off some of the low end a little bit. What you also might want to think about doing, if you don't like that this sounds a bit harsh now, you could also add a filter at the end of the effects chain. So that just, helps take some of the harshness out of the pad if you kind of don't want it to be there. But yeah, that's just kind of completely up to you. Where you'd go from here is really up to you. You can play around with different wavetables. I mean, this is really quite a basic sound. But you know, the kind of EDM sounds that a lot of people are after are the kind of types of sounds that are used in like mainstream kind of EDM tracks usually aren't that complicated, but because they are so kind of recognizable and people are used to hearing them, sometimes these can be the most effective sounds to use. So that pretty much concludes the tutorial, guys. Hopefully you got some use out of this video. And hopefully you like the sound. As I mentioned at the start of the video, guys, if you haven't already, head over to SerumPresets.com. I have tons of presets for sale on there, including this one. This is actually part of my EDM preset pack, which there's an audio demo at the link in the description. And yeah, thanks in advance if you decide to purchase any of my preset packs. You'll get your collection of really high quality presets created by me, and also it helps just to support me and the YouTube channel as well. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to leave comments down below. Leave a like on the video and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with new tutorials that I bring out. And yeah, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.